So I've been thinking about this video idea for a while. Collaboration or partners over friendships. And what do I mean by this? Well, I realized that for most of my life, I have transitioned in and out of friendships very quickly. My friendships don't really last too long if I could basically simplify it. And I still have friends and I still have people that I talk to and I could reach out to and I could hang out with whenever I want. But it varies depending on basically where I'm at in my life. So even right now, like I don't really have friends. I don't hang out. I don't go out, and I spend most of my time building my business or at home with my family. So this idea has come to me for a while, which is I'm not seeking friendships. I'm seeking partnerships, and there's a complete shift in my mentality because it's almost like I'm networking and I'm looking for people to collaborate on my dreams with. So the people that I spend most of my time with are usually people that are in my community or are aligned with my vision for the future. So these are people who I either really resonate with or we're growing together on a specific thing. So even like I'm like friends with my ex manager now in a way. Like I've been helping my ex manager with his content and maybe I might even be getting hired by him soon. Which is exciting for me. But it's like the friends that I would have had before are not the same friends that I have now. So like I used to be way more into partying and way more into messing around and stuff. And I think my recent engagement or disengagement or split from my social dancing podcast really highlights this transition because I started a podcast off with my friends, and I as I evolved and I got deeper into my interest and kept on growing, I ended up seeing that I wanted more out of the podcast. I really wanted to grow it, and then I realized that they didn't feel the same way. They were kind of stuck in their own mentality of where we had started, and so the issue was then our friendship suffered because I didn't care so much for the friendship. I cared more for the business. Because we created an LLC together, and we were working with professionals, and so this was a business. And people often say don't make business with your friends, but it's not a problem if your friends are aligned with the same, have the same vision, have the same goals. So the only reason this didn't work out was because I wasn't clear from the start. Hey, I want this to be a priority, and if our friendship has to suffer, it will. But we have to make sure that we do the best that we can so that this business succeeds. And so that means putting our feelings aside, and that means also putting our egos to the side to make sure that this business succeeds no matter what. And so we didn't start it off right. We didn't make an operating agreement, which is something that you do so that you guys sign a paper and you guys agree to conditions. For example, if somebody wants to leave or if somebody needs to get kicked out, etc. That was never established, and so now I'm left looking at my podcast which had extreme potential, great potential to be one of the best podcasts out there in the dance space in general. And I still have that desire and I still have that ambition. I'm sure I'll be able to pick it back up again, but things aren't going well with my friends who I started it out with. I mean, basically, I don't see them as my friends, and I don't care to have them as my friends, just because they're not stimulating growth in my life. And simply said, like they're not choosing to evolve with me either. Like I'm evolving at a rapid pace, and I have to be around people who are wanting to evolve at that same speed. And if not, things are gonna not go so well. And so I've learned that in this journey of evolution, you you have to look for partnerships, and that has to be the main priority. And so what does that look like? It means speaking to people not for their feelings but to their soul. So like I used to struggle so much because of this, where I would speak to somebody's potential, but I'd also try to navigate through their feelings. But I had to gain it's a much more emotionally intelligent skill because you can't just tell somebody, hey, well, actually, you probably can. And I think that's the thing. It's like, hey, I have these expectations of you. It's just, you know, this is what it looks like to be a friend with me. If that's something that you want, then we can keep doing this. And if you don't want to do that, then we just have to call it quits. And it's kind of like a basically a relationship, right? Like, do you want to be with me? And this is what it means to be with me. Do you want to grow into that with me? And if they don't want to, or they choose to drop out of it, then that's completely fine. Um, so now that's like I've established that now in my head. So now every time I engage with people as a friend, I keep it very friendly up until it starts eating up more of my time. So I really take care of my time. I don't go out. I don't really drink too much. Um, and and so, what does it mean to be my friend? It means being somebody that wants to work on their dreams. It means being held accountable also, because I will call you out when, for example, if you tell me you want to grow this podcast, for example, and you end up not editing or not wanting to learn anything around social media, then I'm gonna call you out on it and say, dude, you want to grow this podcast, but you don't even want to grow your knowledge on social media. So this isn't gonna work. I can't help you out. We can't be doing this together. So that's basically like the mentality, and that's me kind of pointing it back to what happened with my Sauceros podcast. Um, but it could be simple too. Like even recently with my ex manager, we're doing a podcast together. Well, I was helping it. I was helping him build it. I was helping him record the podcast, and he talks a lot about service and doing things right. But there was a moment that he did something where he ignored another person, um, and basically lied to them, and that didn't really sit well with me. So I called him out on it recently when I saw him. I was like, "Hey man, like if we're gonna be doing this, and I'm gonna be helping you out, or we're just gonna be in a relationship in general, I want things to be transparent, and I want you to know like I'm coming at you from this place that I want to bring the highest out of you, and I expect you to do the same for me, and and um and so I'm gonna even have to if I have to say things that will make me uncomfortable, I will say them. And so I told him I was like, when you did this and that, I didn't like it. It made me feel uncomfortable. I felt like it went against what you're all about, and I needed to call you out on it. And it was a little awkward, and he felt a little uncomfortable. But I let him know it's like I need to tell you this because if I don't, then I'm going against myself too. So in order for this to work long term, we need to be able to hold each other accountable, and that also means that you can call me out when I fuck up too, and I will stay true to that. I will make sure that I am in line with that. Um, and so it turns into a completely different dynamic, and so I find myself is this a slippery slope or not? I think it is, and it's not. I think if you're an emotionally intelligent person, you can speak on your desires, and I'm glad that I read this book, the Next Five Steps by Patrick Bet David, where he mentions that he would call out his friends on things like, hey, you said you're gonna do this and you're doing this. I don't really appreciate it, and I don't think I could stand by and watch you do this. I have to keep going if you're gonna be acting like this. Like he does that, and so being a friend with me means, hey, I'm gonna bring the best out of you, but that includes me holding you accountable to things, and it's not so much for me because me personally, I don't give a shit. Like you can be my friend or you cannot be my friend. I don't care. Like I'm gonna be okay either way. But do we want this friendship to thrive, and more importantly, do we want this partnership to thrive in the service of this specific goal? And if we want to do that, then we need to hold each other accountable. And so from here on out, I don't care for friendships. I care for partnerships, and I think that that's something that should be more mainstream. It should be more. It should be talked about more. Um, yeah, because at the end of the day, what are we doing here? Are we building each other up, or are we taking each other down? Because if it's not one, it's the other, and I truly do think that if it's not one, it's the other. Especially when you get into spending more time with people. Like if you're spending more than like 5 hours a week with somebody, or even like 1 hour a week, bro. Like it's a lot of time for me. So if I'm spending 1 hour a week with you, and what are we doing in that 1 hour? Are we producing results? Are we striving towards our goals, or are we just talking shit and messing around? Because I don't have time to do that in my house, so why would I have time to do that outside of my house? But yeah, that's just something that I want to put out there into the world. Partnerships over friendships any day. and we can go into the nuances of that in the comment section if you guys are interested. But thank you guys for tuning in. That's the video for today. Peace out. Stay lucid, baby.